What's up, guys? Welcome to Kind of Funny Games Daily for Friday, December 8th, 2017. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, but this time I'm joined by Anthony Gallegos.
It's good to be back. Good to be back.
Thank you for joining. The first time me and you have ever done a show together, just the two of us.
Yeah, I think so.
We've done things together.
We
where
have,
it's been
totally.
A whole bunch of fools at a table, but now it's just these two fools, and I'm very excited about it.
I like that a lot.
This should be fun. Thank you for joining us. If you didn't know, this is Kind of Funny Games Daily each and every weekday right here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. We get together to talk about all of the nerdy video game news that you need to know about. You can get the show on Twitch and watch it live right here on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, or you can get it as a VOD whenever the hell you want to over on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames or on podcast services around the globe. If you want to be part of the show, go to kindoffunny.com/KFGD to write in your questions, to try to squad up, to do all the different fun things that you can do. Leave your bad PSN name. We got a really good one today. We'll get to that later.
Yes, we did.
Or you can go to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong to keep us honest and let us know what we get wrong during the episode. But we're going to start off with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. It's time for some news.
Heck yeah.
Today, we have two stories.
A baker's dozen.
But here's the thing, the two stories are actually kind of big, and they're kind of
I was going to say, the first one takes up almost the entire page.
Yeah, exactly. They're kind of the same story, just different parts of it. We're talking about the Game Awards, the biggest thing to happen last night in video games. So many announcements, so many awards, so many releases. It's been a crazy time.
It was weird that two things they announced last night. They were like, "Oh, here's these things." Also,
it's happening.
It's tonight,
right now, which is two big things, two fantastic things. So I want to just start this off by saying it was hands down the greatest Game Awards to ever happen. I think by a large margin.
I mean, the consensus has always been that it's been getting better and better every year, and I think that's just them kind of finding their stride. I mean, I would be curious. I mean, obviously, I don't even know if there was, like, if they were televised or something, to go back to, like, old Academy Awards and stuff. You know, I'm saying, like, old Academy Awards, like, what were they like? Probably very informal things, and just like a ballroom with dinner, you know, served, and kind of a thing for them. So I can only imagine that as the production goes on, and especially if it keeps getting more popular and they get more sponsorships, so they have the budget to do things, like, I could only imagine, like, the production value will keep going up. Like, it's crazy to have, like, a live orchestra actually playing video game music and stuff like that, and you know that, and now that I think they've gotten it used to be a thing. I felt like it was kind of Keeley putting it on his own, and some people were on board with it, but I think a lot of people were like, let's just wait and see how this kind of goes. Now it's like everyone's on board.
Everyone's on board. And honestly, it's like over the last couple of years, as it's been the Game Awards, where it was just Keeley doing his own thing on the internet, I really feel like every year has been exponentially better than the last.
Yeah.
And I feel like even last year had its moments that were collectively cringeworthy, where everyone's like, oh, the Chick Hydra Man, and oh, this, and why aren't you giving more time to the awards, and this, and like,
sure.
I feel like so much of that has been at least addressed as far as they could. There's still sponsorships need to happen. Bills need to be paid.
It is not expensive to rent. I mean, it's not cheap to rent out a venue like that.
Yeah, exactly. Let alone all the infrastructure for the live streaming.
Flying people out for the awards.
Exactly.
And stuff.
All that stuff. There's so much money there. And I feel like this year, Jeff really personally paid a lot of attention to the criticism and tried to address all the main points. Like, we saw him over on Reset Era throughout the week kind of talking to people and being like, no, this is going to be good, and we understand. And personally saying Hydra Man will not be there. And like, it's just the little things, understanding that people didn't necessarily like the rap acts from last year.
Sure.
And they're like, all right, we're not doing that. We're going to have this Phoenix, which is this like nerd rock band.
Right, which only like people who attend PAX and stuff like that would be like, oh yeah, Phoenix, I know them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it just says it all right there in the one sentence you said, which is like, he was on Reset Era. Like, how weird, like, that's the thing. Like, you know, like, you would never hear about, like, Billy Crystal was going on to do things and be like, oh, yeah, I'm going on a forum to check out feedback about my game show.
Show. And it's crazy because, like, I expected a lot from him this year, but I didn't expect him to address everything as well as he did. So I was excited going into the show, and I couldn't believe how impressed I was at the end of it. And not just for the production value, not just for what Keeley did, but for the announcements that he got and what it really means to the gaming industry. Because as I was saying this last night as we were watching the show, but this is the only event where all of the major, not only just the big three, but so many third parties as well, share one stage to celebrate video games and to make announcements. And it doesn't necessarily feel like they're all trying to one-up each other. It seems like they're trying to one-up themselves to put on a good show.
Yeah. It's crazy in the sense that, like, we have E3 when everyone does their own presentations, but this is the only other time of the year. Like, it's weird that we now have that fall opportunity for the big game reveals.
And
It's become part of that cadence.
Over the last couple of years, it back in the day, it was just E3, or else it was just like a random press release that would go out.
Or CES. Occasionally, they'd be like something at CES.
Some random thing.
Something.
But I feel like over the last couple of years with the rise of PSX, I think that put a lot of pressure on Paris Games Week and Gamescom to step their games up.
Yeah.
And there was actual press conferences there, but it's never all of them, right?
Yeah.
It's never Microsoft and Sony have a press conference. It's always like, well, Microsoft will take Gamescom and Sony will take Paris Games Week, and then Nintendo will do its directs.
Yeah.
But even those have been a bit more common and a bit more structured. So we've been seeing a lot of that. So we do get announcements throughout the year, but especially this year, PSX taking a kind of step back in terms of how big the announcements are going to be. The Game Awards, I think, have now cemented themselves as a major milestone that the big companies are going to look at as an opportunity to make some big announcements.
Yeah, not only that, but it's also cemented itself with like the press and all that, as well as like, and people like you guys, in the sense that it is not something that's like, I'll just watch the trailer. Like, you have to watch right then and there, because the stuff that's being announced there is not just, it's not just this little indie game that might be cool. It's Bayonetta 3 is actually coming. Also, it's an exclusive. Like, like it's like huge things that are like going to shape the entire landscape of next year. Like,
yeah, no, man, it's very exciting. Let's get right into it. The housekeeping right here. Sorry, man, I keep doing this stuff out of order with the Roper Report and housekeeping. But housekeeping, PSX is happening right now. Greg Miller's down there along with Joey Noel and Andy Cortez. Greg is hosting 2 panels, the Uncharted 10th anniversary celebration. That is tomorrow, December 9th at 5 p.m.
10 years.
Cool.
10 years. I didn't realize that Uncharted was 10 years ago.
10 years ago, and it's going to be Greg hosting with like all the key people of the franchise, all the voice actors. It's going to be a big-ass panel, and it's going to be awesome. And then today, at 5 p.m. is the PlayStation Presents. So it's their keynote. So it's not going to be a press conference, but it's going to be like a big keynote celebration. You can watch it on Twitch, and Greg will be hosting that as well, interviewing Sean Layden and Shuhei Yoshida. So that's going to be pretty fun.
Just some little people.
Just some little dudes that he's just met along the way in his career. But yeah, so now getting into the report. Let's start off with the Game Awards winners.
Yeah.
Let's start with the big one. Game of the Year, Legend of Zelda. Breath of the Wild.
My also personal game of the year.
Me
so
as well.
I was not like, when I saw that, I was like, good.
And it's just so crazy that we had such an amazing year for games. We keep talking about it, but it's like now that these big things are actually happening, it's like, oh shit, this is real. Where Zelda needed to beat PUBG and Horizon and Persona to become Game of the Year. And Mario. And it's like, that's just freaking insane. Something interesting before we even go through this list, Horizon Zero Dawn didn't win anything. And there's some questions we'll get to later, and a lot of people are like, oh, is this fair and whatever. Something I want everyone to understand is it's not like there's just this committee of 7 people that are like in a room discussing. Like, these Game Award winners are not like at IGN for us, when it was like, oh, it's just the editorial team getting in a room and fighting out and trying to decide and trying to think, well, if we give this award, then we'll give that award.
A tit for tat thing that would
exactly
happen sometimes,
where it would happen, where it's like, for example, in this, best game direction was also Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
And I feel like we probably would have given Game of the Year and then best game direction to like something
to Horizon or to something like that, or vice versa, right? But that type of conversation doesn't happen because the Game Awards are decided with, Jeff said last night, over 50 different outlets, including us and Easy Allies and Funhouse and IGN and GameSpot and Game Informer, and pretty much anyone that you would think of having a voice in that realm, they get to vote, and the votes come from there. So I'm sure within each of those groups, there's those conversations. I know we had them of, well, if we give this, we'll give that, and whatever. But overall, at the end of the day, it's not like these were just some contrived things. This is how the votes lied.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and it's actually pretty spread out. Like, it's surprising, some of them, like Best Narrative, What Remains of Edith Finch. I'm not saying that's a bad one, but to me, there are other stories that I'm like, oh, really? Like, it's like that's not where I would.
That was definitely a surprise. So going down here, Best Narrative, What Remains of Edith Finch, Best Art Direction, Cuphead. I was so stoked about that. And that was kind of a shoo-in, right?
Come on.
Best Score in Music, Nier Automata. People were really stoked about that. Best Audio Design, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
That's a absolute. Like, that is a game that the audio design is so crucial to. Like, very few games do you play where the audio design is crucial to the actual gameplay. Stuff like Journey and stuff, the music's very important. But that's why that's a game, if you ever play, you should play with headphones. Because literally it has positional audio of the voices in your head talking to you. And that's like how it telegraphs, like someone that's about to hit you from behind is one of the voices talking to you and stuff like that. And
That's amazing. I haven't played it, but everyone I talk to, I mean, it even starts off saying wear headphones to play this game.
Exactly.
If a game tells you that, obviously there's care and love and thought put into the sound design. So for them to get awarded for that, I think is a very special thing.
Yeah.
Best performance, Melina Juergens in Hellblade.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, by all accounts, she is an amazing performer. And you know, what's funny is my understanding of her is she was a placeholder.
Yep.
She was never meant to be the actress.
While she was giving her award last night, there was two things I thought were really cool. She told her story, but also she was wearing the VO, or not the VO, the motion capture, the thing with the balls and stuff, which is pretty cool. It's like a fun little thing. But she was saying how she's like, I'm just a video editor. They just they put me here. I've never acted before, and I'm doing this, which I'm sure isn't a fun thing for all the other people that were nominated to hear. But that's the other thing too, is like it's cool that we're at a point where even best performance in video games, there are multiple people that you look at and you're like, oh yeah, totally. Any of these people do deserve it, because all the performances in Uncharted and Horizon and Hellblade, they all deserve praise, or even Wolfenstein too. And it's nuts to look back a couple years ago where you're like, oh, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah, for sure.
And now it's like, you know who these people are. And then there's this like newcomers coming in and you're just like, oh, well, they're going to become household names in the video game world.
In every instance in this, there's no shame in losing. That's how I feel like it should be. Like the fact that you were nominated amongst all those things is like, should say everything.
Definitely. And then also Games for Impact. Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. So Hellblade kind of cleaning up in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and Games for Impact makes sense. I mean, it was not only like a game that dealt with mental health in a way that a lot of people like resonated with, which is something that's very difficult in games to do, but also it was like this game company that's worked on a lot of big things like Devil May Cry, and you know, and they've worked on big games for other big publishers, and they're like, we're just going to do our thing on our own and put out this $40 game and see how that goes. Like a super story driven thing. What will the result be?
Yeah.
And it was, I think, really successful for them. And not only that, but they documented their entire process in a way that most game companies would never do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it actually reminds me a lot of, like, you remember IGN, we do the insider things for Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Very similar to that, except they were just doing it themselves and putting themselves out there the whole time.
Which is great. And in addition to that, I think a lot of times with the Games for Impact, that's just one of those awards where it used to kind of be a synonym for, small game that, you know, did something different.
Yeah.
And I think it's crazy impressive that the Games for Impact is now, AAA might not be the right word for it because of the budget of the game or whatever. But when you look at that game, it stands up with these AAA games.
100%. Those guys are like some of the most technically proficient developers out there alongside Guerrilla and everyone else, you know. And yes, they made that game for probably a tiny fraction of the budget of some of the titles they were up against.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. Best independent game, once again, Cuphead. And oh my God, I totally agree.
I mean, yes, that's one of like my top 5 of the year.
Me
like,
too. I think it's in top 3 for me. Like it is so fantastic. And we've talked about the game a lot, but I am still just so surprised that the game ended up playing as well as it looks.
Yeah.
And it had such a shaky development as far as I'm concerned, because we understood that it was going to take a long time to make because of the animation, because of all of that.
As that long? Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a very long time. And playing it at different events, whether it was a PAX or an E3, like out of the 3 times I played it, only one of them I was like, oh, this is great. The other 2 times I was like, oh, this is going to not be that fun, not be that good. And I was totally wrong. Like they totally fixed all the issues. I think they listened to a lot of feedback. And I'm also extremely surprised by how much content is in the game.
Yeah.
I thought there might be like 10 bosses in it. It's closer to 30. I think it's like 26.
Yeah, them getting that extra time and making that overworld stuff really fleshed it out. Because I remember when I first heard it's just boss rushes, I was like, I don't know if that really sounds that cool. Turns out that was awesome. The boss rushing is like in all the content that they really needed. And then on top of that, you get the actual run and gun levels that are amazing as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, super pleased with that.
So great. Best mobile game, Monument Valley 2. That's one that I didn't play 2. I played Monument Valley 1 and I did really enjoy it. I am a little surprised by this. I thought that Fire Emblem Heroes was gonna take this one.
Yeah, Fire Emblem Heroes, or even something like you know, I don't know, like one of the other big mobile games like Clash Royale or something. Clash Royale was this year? Am I mistaken, or was I playing it this year? I don't know sure.
I never played it.
But I don't play that many mobile games, but I felt like there was a lot of other ones that could have been in that range that would, you know, like I was very surprised by that too.
Yeah.
You know, it just seemed, I could even seen like something like one of the Telltale games that came out, honestly, being slotted into that because they actually are pretty big, and there's been some really good Telltale games this year as well.
Yeah, I don't think Well, I know that none of those were nominated, but I don't think that anyone would even have thought to nominate it because like the same groups that are voting on this are also the groups.
That's
that
true,
are
and I guess they want to
games.
maybe they want to go for something that's very specifically mobile.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, this is the first year that they separated mobile and handheld.
Oh,
Yeah, because for forever it was just like mobile/portable game.
I guess that's fair. I typically tend to think of mobile and handheld in one sort of genre myself, but at this point,
Everything's blurred.
It's weird though to think of it as handheld. So at some point, will handheld include Switch games? I don't know.
That's the yeah.
debate,
I think that we'll see. But I mean that's the same thing as like indie game versus big game. Even Hellblade AAA versus
is it
like,
indie? Yeah.
Do these titles mean anything?
Yeah.
Best VR and AR game: Resident Evil 7 Biohazard.
Not for me personally.
Really?
But yeah, like I think I've had some really solid VR experiences. I think Super Hot VR is probably my favorite VR experience of the year.
I need to do that. I loved Super Hot so much.
Yes.
And imagining it in VR, it makes sense.
Yeah, and the levels are quite different. Like there's actually a lot of unique levels designed for it, and I found that to be one of the best VR experiences I had all year. That being said, Resident Evil 7 also very, very good. And I think Resident Evil 7 is an example. People have been saying, when is there going to be the game I can play through a lengthy single-player game fully in VR? There's been a couple of those, but they've been pretty few and far between, and that's a great example of that.
And, talking about the whole, well, if we give this that, then we'll give this. Resident Evil 7 deserves recognition for sure.
Yeah.
After, Resident Evil 5 and then Resident Evil 6 going the much more action route and seeing the response to that, and despite those games selling extremely well, the critical feedback of the core Resident Evil fans were like, this isn't Resident Evil. They did such a good job of going back to the roots of the franchise.
Yes.
And then also doing it in VR. And it's like that they did two things that I think were very important, especially for Capcom, who have not been on the top of their game recently to do.
Yeah. They haven't been super experimental with a lot of things, and that was very ambitious for them.
I think it paid
and very
off.
Surprising. I mean, honestly, I would have expected Resident Evil 7, 8, 9, 10 to have just been third-person games, like all over again. I would have just expected us to continue the story of Wesker and all these guys, and for them to got more nonsensical as we went. So yes, for them to go back to this and call it Resident Evil, and not to mention putting in the Biohazard name, I was just
so
like,
cool.
Dang, that was.
And also the way they announced the game at E3, and it's like, all right, hey, it's E3. Here's this game. What is it? Oh, it's fucking Resident Evil 7. Oh, there's a demo out tonight. Oh, it's coming out in 6 months.
Yeah.
It's like, they really nailed it with that one.
They put out PT vibes for everyone immediately by doing that, and they really nailed it.
Yeah. Then best action game, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus.
Very deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention, it's tough because I think there are some people who probably would have wanted that to get like best narrative, because for some people that was really story driven. But if it couldn't get best narrative, that's where I would have liked to have seen it. Because
I mean, for me, and again, without playing Wolfenstein, like I do believe that Cuphead deserves best action game. But
that's a worthy argument.
But with Cuphead getting other things, it's like, all right, cool. That is fine, because Wolfenstein and Bethesda definitely deserve some praise. I know you didn't watch the Game Awards; you kind of just watched the highlights and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you see the Bethesda single player?
The please, single player, make them like continue to go. Yeah,
so fantastic, and I think that that was just another example of how these Game Awards were a step up from years prior. Where it's like they were speaking to the gamers, they were speaking to the people that read forums and that watch things like this.
Yeah,
and Bethesda coming out and being like, hey. Like, not only do we make great single-player games, but there are great single-player games out there. And the hashtag #SavePlayer1, like, that's so funny and so real. And it's like a movement that gamers can get behind.
Yeah.
And it's a positive force. It's not shitting on things and hating on things.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was a cool thing they did.
Best action/adventure game, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Always happy to see them take any awards for that game.
And at the same time, though, it's like action versus action adventure. It's just like,
it is a tough.
We're just splitting hairs.
Yes, totally.
But sure, okay. Best role playing game, Persona 5.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah, and that's another one that a lot of people feel got snuffed in this way or that way, but it got something, and it got something that it definitely deserves.
For sure.
Best fighting game, Injustice 2.
Absolutely. That game has like changed the conversation about fighting games. I think it's weird to have a game where people, even at the studio I was working at the time, like when that game came out, people were like, I think I should get it. The campaign sounds awesome, which is not something I've heard about a fighting game in probably years. The campaign sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And so like now fighting game stories can't just be like fight through all the guys and try and kill the final boss thing, like Mortal Kombat style that they've been literally for like 20 years. And that game is like, actually, they can have a story and it can matter and they can make you really care about characters. And
it's beautiful, too.
Yes.
And especially coming out in a year where we saw things like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite or Street Fighter V continue to try to get up to standard. Like, it's nuts that they came out and were like, no, here's how you do it.
Yeah.
And it just looks fantastic.
Yeah, I think that game, along with a few other games this year, will change that sort of genre for like indefinitely. I think the conversation will be different.
Best family game, Super Mario Odyssey. Deserved for sure. But wow, the only win for Super Mario Odyssey. Who would have thought?
Best family game.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess I'm trying to think of other family games. I would have said maybe like a Jackbox game or something like that is a good party game, but family game.
But I mean, there's so many stories of like parents playing or just watching the kids
totally,
play.
And
like
the
giving
second
them
player option
exactly
totally allows them to participate without being like totally obtrusive or ruining it for the like more skilled person that's playing.
Exactly. And it's just nuts though. 2017, Super Mario Odyssey only taken one award. I get it though. I get it. And
I mean, Nintendo
love
cleaned
the
up
game
everywhere
so
else.
much. Yeah. So there you go. And then best strategy game, Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. And that one I think is going to be kind of divisive with people because we also had Warhammer. We also had
and there was a big XCOM expansion.
Yeah,
and it's like I don't know if an expansion quite qualifies for a lot of people because it's just DLC. But it was like such a huge expansion for the War of the Chosen that it like completely. It was like a re-release of XCOM. Like I played through the entire XCOM 2 again because it was such a substantial update. It made the game radically different.
Yeah,
and it was as much content as a new game. But that being said, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, I'm happy it got some recognition because
it was so much better than it should have been.
Yes, I mean everyone got the announcement, and I feel like everyone just kind of like forehead slapped and was like, "Why are we doing this?" And then
it ended up being yet another positive mark on the Switch's first year.
Totally, and it was Nintendo being like, "Here's a third party that we're going to trust with our first party characters." Like that was a huge step. I feel like
in a genre that we've never really fucked with, and it's going to work, and people are actually going to like it. Yeah, it's very impressive. I actually skipped one here. Best handheld game, Metroid: Samus Returns. I don't feel like there was much competition this time around when it came to that stuff. Like the competition was like Fire Emblem Echoes, which was all right.
Yeah.
Metroid: Samus Returns, I really enjoyed, and it was amazing having a core Metroid game, but it just got me more excited for when we're going to get a real one.
My best handheld game this year was Breath of the Wild because I played that game largely in handheld.
Yeah.
So.
Best sport/racing game, Forza Motorsport 7.
Yeah, well deserved. Super. I mean, that series continues to be very impressive, and the stuff they've added in there. Just the fact that I feel like that game, like it used to be all about Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo setting the standard, and I think at this point it's Forza.
Yep.
So,
most anticipated game, Last of Us Part 2.
For some people. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that game. Don't get me wrong. I would have been happy if there was never another Last of Us personally, just because I loved the first one so much and I loved the way that it ended.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm actually more looking forward to like The Last of Us 2. I feel like I kind of know what to expect because I know the story of Ellie and Joel, and so I'm going to get more of that. And I'm sure there will be twists, obviously. But for me, it's more like more anticipated. For me, it's like God of War, just because I'm like, what is that game at this point?
My most anticipated would be Spider-Man, but
for sure.
With Last of Us, I totally get what you're saying, and I agree that like I'd be totally fine with them leaving it alone. But the fact that it's that team making it, to me, says they have a story to tell and they understand, and they're gonna deliver.
I have no doubt I'm gonna play that game and walk away being like awestruck, just like I was after I played the first one. Just the God of War one is only that for me, only because again, I was so over God of War. I was like, that series is dead to me pretty much forever. And then that new trailer and what they've shown, I'm just like, okay, I think I'm back on board with God of War.
Every time I've talked to Corey about God of War, which at this point I think has been 2 times in behind closed doors, demos and stuff at the last couple E3s, it's just, I'm like, wow, this game's going to be something really special. And I think it's going to like really surprise a lot of people, both just general consumers and also games media and stuff. Because games media, by and large, is over God of War and over that style of game. And they're doing something different with this. I think the only risk it runs is being a little too similar to things like Last of Us, when in terms of walking around, having a partner with you, and like how annoying is the kid going to be? How are we going
to make you care about this character? Yeah, I mean, it definitely has a little bit of the same vibe, but it's just weird that I could ever say, I think I might care about Kratos, which is something I never thought I would say.
Very interesting. Then Trending Gamer, Dr. Disrespect took it. So Andrew Renee lost a very valiant fight, but Dr. Disrespect definitely.
There was some intense competition, for
Yeah,
sure.
he is amazing. And when it comes to trending gamer of the year, what does that even mean? It could be argued a bunch of different ways.
Totally.
I mean, like looking at Andrea, I truly believe, after knowing her for, I want to say a decade, that's probably a little bit more than is real. But this is her year. Like, she rose so high this year. She did so much, accomplished so much more than she ever has before. Having said that, like Dr. Disrespect, I mean, you can't watch him and not get it.
You can't watch other streamers at this point without hearing them use language. And you're like, that's something Doc said one time. And now it's just become like, especially with Battleground streamers, which obviously has become a huge streaming phenomenon, they all say things that you watch it and you're like, oh, the Doc. Like, I
Doc.
I hear people say phrases and I'm like, oh, that's because the Doc.
Yeah,
so it is.
I mean, it's just so funny that it's the perfect mesh of performance and skill.
Yeah, I think I watched the Dr. Disrespect. He's actually probably what got me a little bit back into streaming, but also got me into watching streams. I didn't used to watch Twitch that much, and now I watch all the time. And
I think last time you were on Gamescast, like a while ago, months ago, you were talking about this, and I think you're the one that even turned me on to Dr. Disrespect.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan, and it's just crazy that I feel like watching him made me realize that I think I probably would have liked wrestling if I had grown up watching wrestling. Because I watch him and I'm like, I like this whole silly shtick to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I probably would have been a huge wrestling fan if I just given it a chance.
Absolutely. Then getting into some stuff that we don't understand. Well, best esports game. We can talk about that.
Yeah,
Overwatch.
for sure. I know that. I was a little disappointed. Well, I get it. I was like, there were some people like among my circle that were like, why wasn't it Battlegrounds? I get it though. There's a big difference between Battlegrounds and Overwatch. Overwatch, I'd say it's a totally worthy win because Battlegrounds still has a lot to learn with how they actually cast the game at this point, and I feel like that's a huge like hurdle for them to get over, is like how to actually properly showcase that game when it's in an esports thing. And with Overwatch, they've totally nailed it.
They got it.
It's awesome.
Best esports player, Faker. For League of Legends.
I'm not familiar enough with League of Legends at this point. Had they talked about Battlegrounds or Dota, yes, I would have totally been able to talk about it. But as far as League of Legends, that my League of Legends time was probably like 5 or 6 years ago when I was like super deep in the scene.
Best esports team, Cloud9.
I'd say that's good. Yeah, Cloud9 has a really cool Battlegrounds team. They have a really good team for CSGO. And then, they have a really good Dota team. Like, they're everywhere at this point, much more than I feel like even a lot of the other organizations are. And not only are they everywhere, but they're everywhere among like the top 10 in that area.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's great. Student Game Award, Level Squared. Which is Kip Brennan, Steven Scoglio, Dane Perry, Svedson, and Swyburn University.
I got to check that out, Level Squared. Personally, for me, I would have said that my favorite student game was a game called Superflight. It's out on Steam as well. It's $3, made by some students from Germany. One of the best games I've played.
Really?
Yeah.
Check it out. Best debut indie game, Cuphead.
Come on.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
And then Chinese Fan Game Award, because the Game Awards were sponsored by Tencent. JX3 HD from Kingsoft Corporation.
Okay. I'd have to check that out.
So those were all of the awards given out.
Oh, but there was it didn't end up on here, but they announced it. I saw it on Polygon after all this went out. Best multiplayer game was given to Battlegrounds after the like off the air.
Oh,
like it wasn't actually
broadcast. Well, there was a lot that wasn't broadcast.
Yeah.
Like most of these weren't broadcast. Most of these were mentioned in a
totally. I mean,
and they also won this.
It's just like the Academy Awards. They don't broadcast everything.
It's just like the Academy Awards, and we'll get to this in some of the questions too. With the addition being there is promotional trailers. There is.
Totally, yeah. You don't see a trailer for Jurassic World 2, like, or whatever, like
during
in the middle
of the Academy Awards. Exactly. All right, now let's get to the announcements made at the Game Awards. I got most of this information from Kotaku's rundown. They did a really good job getting it all. Epic Games revealed a new 50 vs. 50 mode for Fortnite Battle Royale. This mode is available now for a limited time. Will be available through Sunday, December 17th.
That's pretty crazy. I definitely want to try it. You've been able to do that in Battlegrounds, but only through someone, if you knew someone who had a custom server, they could set up stuff like that. And we've played around with stuff like that, but the fact that they're just making a legit mode for a short amount of time, it's really interesting. I'm also curious why they're doing a short amount of time. My guess is they don't want to split the player base too much, but they want to see like what's the reaction to this and should we pursue it?
Yeah.
I think that sort of like trial game development is like a super cool thing to try. Also, 50 by 50 sounds insane, especially in a game where everyone can build. Like it will actually result in combat probably where some people are like designated marksmen and some people are just out there harvesting resources. Like they're basically the builder bots that are sitting there trying to make the forts for everyone else to kick butt.
That's insane. I didn't think about that because hearing this, I'm kind of like, well, doesn't that take the magic away from what these battle royale games and just kind of turn it into Counter-Strike on a Battlefield scale?
Yeah, a little bit. But with that building aspect, I think that has always been what set Fortnite Battle Royale apart from PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And so I think that this will showcase that in a way.
Crows and Squanch Games announced Accounting Plus will be released for PlayStation VR on December 19th. Just this updated version of the HTC Vive VR game promises to be double the size of the original with new characters, music levels, and more. This is Justin Roiland's game, which looked absolutely bonkers.
Yes,
and I love that it's called Accounting Plus.
Yes, yeah, no, I think that's going to be a really good thing for PlayStation VR people to check out. Like all the stuff that he's been involved with in VR has actually been really good. The Rick and Morty game VR also really, really good.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
World War Z game was announced 3-4 years too late.
Yeah.
It looks to be based more off the movie than the book. It's by Saber Interactive and it's coming soon on PlayStation 4, Steam, and Xbox One.
Yeah, that's gonna be that's a weird thing to announce. Hopefully they'll be able to differentiate themselves and be like, look, we're trying something that's very different, but it's just like that naming convention is going to be really tough because DayZ is finally coming to consoles, which is weird. But DayZ's reputation has also kind of gone down over the years. Then there was this game called The War Z, which I actually checked out when I was at IGN still. And that was a game that was broiled in scandal as a scam. And it was the first time Steam gave everyone refunds on a game and forced the game down and stuff like that. So it's just I feel like there's a lot of I just would have been I don't know that name has the clout that we're going to want it to have. I agree. 4 years too late and also baffling.
Yeah, really, really weird. This definitely read to me as one of the things where they probably, I don't know this, but I imagine that they had to negotiate and pay to be part of the Game Awards instead of the other way around, where a lot of these bigger things you can tell were Game Awards baking.
Yeah, I could see that these guys made a really cool zombie game and then were going around and talking to people, and someone was like, well, we have this license. Could we turn it into this license?
Yeah.
Sure.
GTFO, a new 4-player co-op experience from the game designer behind Payday and Payday 2 was unveiled.
That game looks awesome.
It looks pretty cool. It looks like it's a 4-player Aliens.
Yeah, it kind of has Left 4 Dead vibes. I mean, Payday obviously had a little bit of that too, except you were fighting police rather than a bunch of zombies and stuff. But I mean, Payday and Payday 2, by all counts, and I've played quite a bit of it. They're good. They're really good, PvE co-op holdout games. If you want that horde mode sort of experience, they were some of the best that's ever been done. So the fact that they're doing that, and also that game looks incredible.
It looks pretty cool. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I think we want to do a party mode of it. It'd be great.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Alchemy Labs is making a job simulator sequel called Vacation Simulator, coming to Rift, Vive, and PSVR in 2018.
Definitely one of the first. I think Job Simulator has always been the first game that was if I'm going to show someone VR, this is where I start them.
Because I feel it does a good job of, I didn't like it too much. I feel like I got bored after a couple minutes, but it does a good job of, hey, you're in here. Anything you look at, you can interact with.
Exactly. That's why it's a good onboarding.
Yeah, sometimes it's you'll be in a car and it's the dashboard won't open. You're oh, that doesn't make sense. That feels weird. Right. Whereas Job Simulator, they do a good job of anything around you, you can interact with.
Yeah, it's a good first experience. So I'll be curious. I'm not super excited, but I am curious, what does that look like, a vacation simulator?
From Software had a huge tease for Shadows Die Twice.
Yeah.
So it was 30 seconds. Yeah. All we saw was From Software's logo, a lot of black, some weird looking bone with
skull
blood and weird stuff for 10 seconds. And then it just said Shadows Die Twice with a period. And that was it.
Yeah.
So is this a Bloodborne sequel? Is this a new franchise called Shadows Die Twice? Is this something totally different?
Yeah, I'd be curious. I don't know. Do people would people want, I mean, obviously I was about to say, do people want a Bloodborne sequel? Of course they do. But do people want a new game, or would they rather have a Bloodborne sequel? I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like at this point, it's weird to say that From Software is now one of those companies that their logo could be put on pretty much whatever game, and I feel like people are going to buy it.
Because they get what it is.
Yes.
Souls-like.
Yes, exactly.
And it's interesting because Bloodborne's Twitter, in addition to From Software's Twitter, were tweeting about this. So people are thinking, oh, it's Bloodborne 2. But I don't know. I agree that it kind of could just be its own new thing again.
Yeah.
And
they just want to hit Bloodborne fans because they know they're going to be fans of this next thing as well.
Yeah, and I feel like, and I'm saying this as someone that is not into those franchises at all. And I might be wrong, so let me know if I am. Counterpoint.com / you're wrong. But maybe not having, like, Bloodborne 2 would have to be PS4 specific.
Yeah.
You'd imagine. It doesn't have to be, but you'd imagine it would be.
Yeah.
Doing something new maybe could be multi-platform,
Yeah,
which
for sure.
would definitely help them out. Firewatch developer Campo Santo revealed its next game, a first-person adventure game called In the Valley of the Gods.
Yeah.
The title, set in Egypt during the late 1920s, will be released in 2019 on PC. I'm sure it'll go to other places as well eventually. It has a really cool song in the trailer, and it's got a fully animated partner character that you explore alongside. The look is very Firewatch, and I think that's awesome. Firewatch was one of my favorite games of 2016, I want to say.
Yeah. Those guys handle a lot of sensitive like matters very carefully, and they're very thoughtful when it comes to that. So setting it in Egypt in the 1920s, like when there was a lot of like basically like imperialism going on, various countries were coming in being like, we're exploring, and basically aka stealing whatever we want from Egypt, so I'll be curious to see how they handle stuff like that, because like some people I think would just make it a game about exploration and they wouldn't touch that, but these guys are not that.
Yeah,
they will hit on these heavier themes and stuff like that. So for me, it's like that was such an intentional way and a place to set it, like right around the same time as like Indiana Jones and all those movies were. And so I feel like I'll be very curious to see how they handle that stuff.
Yeah.
I think I'm expecting for it to be very heavy in all the right ways.
Yeah, I'm so stoked. I wasn't expecting to see something from them so soon. So
yeah,
I mean, 2019 is a ways out, but still, even hearing about the game is exciting.
I bet you they'll show something in 2018 again.
Definitely. THQ Nordic announced Fade to Silence, a character-driven group survival game from Black Forest Games, was showcased during the event. Details about the title surfaced earlier on Steam. Fade to Silence is set in a wintry post-apocalyptic world where humans fight to survive against the harsh elements and supernatural monsters. The game will launch on Steam Early Access December 14th.
Yeah.
Didn't really look too cool.
No, I mean, it sounds a little, it's a little bit like co-op Metro 2035, I don't know. There's a lot of, the survival genre is super competitive. I mean, there's so many games out there that are doing almost the exact thing. There's this, I think that it's cool and I'll be curious to try it. For me, it's like, I do love any game where I can play with friends, and group survival games like Rust and all these things, DayZ, were always things that we jumped into. But at some point you're just like, I don't know, like how many times are we going to dip our toes into that water again? I don't know. So it is definitely a wait and see. I think that'll be more like let this roll out. And then if people tell me it's awesome, I'll check it out. But again, coming December 14th, it's cool that it's not like sometime next year.
No, it's like
next
early
week.
access now. Zelda Breath of the Wild's DLC Pack 2 Champion's Ballad was announced. Well, it wasn't announced. It was
shown
and tonight available. So it's available now. You can get it. There's a dope ass motorcycle you get for beating it. You need to complete the Divine Beast quest before you can play the DLC. But from all accounts right now, it seems like it's pretty lengthy and there's a lot going on in it. And from what I've seen from Twitter, it's one of those things where, just like Breath of the Wild, you should avoid reading things about it and just kind of go into it, because there is a lot of fun and surprises and secrets.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I wasn't a big fan of the first DLC, only because it wasn't. I wanted more stuff to explore and more content. Yeah, out of Zelda. That was why I was so wrapped up in it. So, and that's what this sounds like. It finally is.
Yeah,
so
this is definitely real
perfect
content.
Christmas break.
Yep. Oh, I'm so excited this weekend. Let's go. And then starting to get into some huge megatons here. Soul Calibur 6. Finally announced.
Yeah.
People were super stoked about it. Soul Calibur is one of those, there's the diehard fans. I kind of lost off like probably around 4.
I feel like that's when a lot of people start to drop off.
Yeah, but it's back and it seems promising. Like the team working on it are great, and people are really excited about this. It's on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. I would not be surprised to see a Switch version announced in the future. It's using Unreal 4, so it can be there. And also, with the leak that came out a while back, it did say that they're going to bring back the Link and special characters and stuff.
Exactly.
So.
That to me is the question. Who will be the special characters?
Yeah.
Like, will we see, like, in the Xbox version, will it be like, am I going to see, like, Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War and he'll have, like, his chainsword or something? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
so.
Could be fun, but that's... Congratulations to the fans out there.
Yeah, it finally happened.
It finally happened.
I feel like this year's been a lot of it finally happening too. Like, there's the last couple of years I've been like, Last Guardian, all these things I've been like, those will never happen. And then they've been happening. So I'm like, okay. Anything is possible.
Yep. Bayonetta 1 and 2 coming to Switch on February 16th. I am so excited about this. Bayonetta, oh my God. not enough people played it, especially number 2, being stuck on the Wii U. This is such great news. I love those types of games. I love that they're still coming out. And especially after how poorly Bayonetta 2 sold, I was like, oh, this is the end of such a cool franchise. So now people on Switch will be able to experience it. And then they announced Bayonetta 3 Switch exclusive.
I know, one more thing.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That is shocking to me. I would have never expected that.
I would have thought after the way Bayonetta 2 performed that was kind of the end of that franchise. At least, and especially if we ever did see a Bayonetta 3, it would have been a multi-plat thing.
Yep.
Like it would have been like, it's on every console because we're trying to make it hit the numbers that we need to hit.
Bayonetta's now a Nintendo franchise.
Yeah.
And like that's so crazy to me because who the fuck would have thought that, right?
No. I mean, and I think the precedent setting too with Bayonetta 1 and 2 and with things like... gosh, what's the Rockstar game? I'm spacing on it, even though I love that game so hard. I'm just spacing on it. The one that just came out, the detective game. Why am I spacing?
L.A. Noire.
L.A. Noire, yes. I actually look at my Switch as a place where I'm like, I want actually some re-releases of games that I miss on that Switch because it is capable of playing them. So like for me, there's a lot of Wii U games I missed as well that I'm like, please.
And they're slowly
give me a chance to play
they're getting rid of all the ones that they have to port over. This is nuts. I would have expected Bayonetta 2 being ported at some point, but Bayonetta 3 is insane. And I think that this answers a big question of, is the Switch only going to get ports? It's like, it's going to get ports and more.
Yes.
So, so excited for this. Now, Greg Miller always talks about when new games are announced and the previous games coming out being re-released too soon is a bad thing. Like people ask about Ni no Kuni, and it's like, should Ni no Kuni 1 be remastered or whatever, re-released on PS4 to get people ready for Ni no Kuni 2? And he's always like, no, I think people are going to burn out. I do kind of have that worry with Bayonetta 1 and 2
games
and
fast.
Bayonetta 3. But the thing is, we don't know when 3's coming, and it might not be for a while. So hopefully, and February 16th, that's not far at all.
No, that's like basically like tomorrow.
Yeah.
At this point, as far as video games go,
and then we got to look at Death Stranding, trailer number 3.
What a weird thing.
Just as fucking wacky as you'd expect.
Yes.
Probably, I would say it's my least favorite of the trailers so far.
Sure.
But good Lord, if it's not fucking weird as hell, I am so interested in what this game is. It's got guys in hazmat suits, invisible monsters, disintegrating bodies, all sorts of other sci-fi junk, including fetuses and tanks, and earth-shakingly massive nightmare creatures. Norman Reedus, Guillermo del Toro, and Kojima were all on stage. It was definitely a moment. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you would see weird Metal Gear trailers, you'd still be like, I still kind of understand in my mind what Metal Gear is. So I know where we're going. This... Who knows?
Who knows?
I don't know. For all I know, we're not even going to play Norman Reedus, and we're going to play as someone else, and this is just the weird stuff they're showing. I literally, there's nothing.
I mean, it just looks fucking insane. When will we see it? Will we ever actually see this as a game? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, who knows? It may, for all we know, it's going to get released on Blu-ray as a movie, and this whole time they've been like, it's going to be a game, but actually it's just a movie. So.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of weird experiences that don't look like a game, we got a trailer for Dreams.
Yeah.
And it finally kind of looks like a game.
Yeah, it totally
finally
does.
was like, okay, I can kind of understand what you do.
Yes.
In addition to the making your weird 3D worlds, it finally started to look like a 3D Little Big Planet.
Yeah, and they showed too, like, there's some very like traditional, almost like in Space Invaders looking games that they were showing people had made and stuff. I think that game is pretty much going to be like a much more surreal version of Microsoft's Project Spark. That's the vibe I'm getting for it, which was also a 3D game creation tool. I hope it works for them because like. For me, with all the Little Big Planets, I love them. I was never a creator, but I loved playing people's creations. Like I loved playing like someone's take on Dead Space 2 in Little Big Planet, which was like a 20-minute thing. And I was like, wow, they actually nailed it. They made it creepy. So I can't wait to see what people do with it.
Greg Miller's playing it at PSX this weekend, so we'll get some impressions after that. And yeah, it looks like an actual game, so that's cool. Coming out in 2018.
Yeah, I feel like 2018 is going to be a super strong year for Sony. Like crazy
God
strong.
of War, maybe Last of Us, probably not. Days Gone, Spider-Man. Ni no Kuni 2.
It's a huge hit of first-party releases.
We got a new story trailer for Metro Exodus coming fall 2018.
Yeah, I liked Metro, and I liked Metro Last Light. I think that I'd be curious to know, like I feel like in the West, those games hit, and people are like, yeah, Metro's cool. It's always been like, especially if you're a PC gamer, it's always been the game that you're like, put this on since Crysis. It's been the game you put on your machine and be like, can I actually run this? Like, because they've always been like technical powerhouses. But I feel like probably Eastern Europe and some Western Europe, those games are like, people are just so stoked for them because that book series there, and especially in like Russia and some of Eastern Europe, was like their Harry Potter for a while. Like it was like
wow,
it was like a cultural event when those games came, when the
book series came up.
Yeah, and that was just a book. If I remember right, the guy just put it for free and was like, "Here's just a thing I wrote," and then it blew up, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna actually start selling it." And everyone was like, "Have you read Metro 2033?" It was like The Martian. That's probably a better analogy. Like people were like, "Oh my god, this thing is like amazing." So
wow, that's awesome. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
And then Witchfire was announced. A new first-person shooter from the creators of The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, as well as Painkiller and Bulletstorm, was revealed at the show.
I watched it. The combat looks really crazy, like the sort of teleporting you were doing and stuff like that. I definitely, that's a must play for me because I really liked Bulletstorm.
Bulletstorm was awesome.
I liked the Gears of War game that People Can Fly did as well, and I really liked The Vanishing Ethan Carter is like a excellent. It's like right up there with several other games like Firewatch and stuff that is like the sit down and play this in one night and get this crazy story adventure. So with the narrative chops they have combined with like their shooting chops, I'm really curious to see like what does the next game from them look like.
We had a debate last night on whether or not Witchfire is a cool name. And I want to say it is.
I think
Witchfire,
cool.
it like flirts with the corny bullshit, but I'm like, I think Witchfire's kind of dope.
Yeah. I mean, naming a game is one of the most incredibly difficult things.
It's better than Bulletstorm, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, sure. But Bulletstorm's name, as cheesy and silly as it was, definitely fit the tone.
It fits what it
of
is.
That game.
Yeah. And then here we go. A Way Out will be released on March 23rd, 2018 for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The co-op experience from Hazelight, the developer behind Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, will allow you to play the game online with a friend, even if the other person doesn't have a copy of the game.
Yeah. I mean, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons is like that's a game I made my fiance play because even though she doesn't play a ton of games, that was one that I was like, that to me was one of the best experiences that's probably one of my top like 15 games I've ever played. Just because such an inventive take on storytelling. Literally, they're all speaking gibberish the whole time, but it has more emotional resonance than like some of the most beautifully scripted and well like made cutscenes I've ever played. Like I've never played a game that had a moment where a mechanic made me cry, and that game had a point where a mechanic brought tears to my eyes, and that forever will that will make it where A Way Out I will be there day one.
This game looks so freaking cool.
Yeah.
So damn cool. And yeah, it was the trailer was announced by this dude, Joseph Fares.
Yes.
And he kind of came out looking drunk as hell, ranting like a passionate lunatic.
Yeah.
Talking or calling out EA on loot box shit, and this game's being published by EA, talking like saying literally fuck the Oscars, and just kind of going off the hinges.
That's become a thing where like that will be a year from now, that will be the meme from that show. Will be like people just like like zooming in on some like Jeff's face as he's like saying these things and being like, oh, you know, like
a very Tommy was so like showing from our dude here, Joseph. And it's interesting because it's like there's been a lot of controversy that came from this because so many people like, fuck yeah, that was so awesome, and a lot of people being like, that was very insulting and not what we should be promoting. And I kind of see both sides to it. Walt Williams tweeted out and he was just like, hey, like saying fuck the Oscars is not helping anybody, and it just makes like that makes all the video games or special people sound really stupid. And
it makes everyone look a little childish.
Yeah, and you shouldn't tear something else down to bring yourself up. And I totally agree with that. I loved the passion. I loved what he was doing, and he definitely was a character. And I think that it added to the mythos of A Way Out. And him calling out EA and all that. It's like I think that that's important to have that type of on this stage, have this kind of conversation. And the other thing is, I would bet money that was planned.
I hope so, because otherwise there's a lot of anxious conference calls happening today. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
like and there's been reports about this guy that he is a little bit like
controversial, and that EA knew that. Yeah,
and EA knew it, and it's just like I have a feeling that the Jeff Keighley like kind of being there and like being nervous and stuff. Not that it was like scripted out, and I'm sure that it did go a little farther than they wanted it to, but I do think the idea was to have that moment.
He's going to take a few seconds and just speak his mind. Okay, whatever that means.
Whatever it means, we'll go. And then, I feel like Jeff did an excellent job of saying, hey, okay, we got to wrap it up and it's time to go. And, I think that it came off right, but definitely a moment for sure.
Yes.
Sea of Thieves finally got a release date, March 20th, 2018 on Xbox and PC. There will be a beta before. Ryan McCaffrey tweeted out, got a press release about Sea of Thieves release date, and it mentions the special edition controller launching on February 6th, about 6 weeks before the game. I doubt that's a random date. I'd bet an In-N-Out lunch that February 6th is when the final beta test or open beta launches.
Yeah, my guess is they'll officially put it on the Xbox Game Preview program, since they have that whole program for early access games, and that it'll start there on February 6th if you want to go buy that version and jump in
from
early.
there.
Yeah. And so that's how that's a good soft launch for them too, so that they can make sure the servers are rolling, because I doubt a lot of people will jump into the game preview, and then the actual big release day is when they can actually start like super rolling it out.
And then PUBG showed off the new desert map. The new desert map hit the test servers supposedly at midnight last night, and it's coming to Xbox in 2018. The PC 1.0 launch was announced to come out December 20th. They also showed a live-action PUBG trailer that looked pretty cool, and it was like, are they making a movie?
Yeah, I'm sure they'd love to, but I hope not. I just like transmedia stuff very rarely works, especially for relatively small companies.
The live-action trailer did look cool, though. I think they did a good job of doing what they need to do, don't do anymore.
Exactly. Let it live is sort of this short little thing. But the new desert map, it ended up launching at 2 a.m. last night because they ran into unexpected server trouble. I know because I stayed up and watched the servers and played it. It's cool. It's very different. I mean, it's still 100 people, but it's way smaller. So it's not like in the other games. I feel like it'll actually be really great for streaming too, in the sense that like when you drop into an area, there's sometimes you'll play that game and people will be like, it's a running simulator, and you'll be 20 minutes where you see no one. In this, you will see people almost immediately.
That's great.
And you will see people pretty much continuously the whole time. It feels like in the same way that Dota has put out like their really fast game modes, and in the past League of Legends done the same. This is like their take on what if we had a game mode that would be over much
That's
faster.
Cool.
And very more action centric.
They've been talking about how they wanted this to have a different feel and to have different strategies necessary to play, and like it's good that it seems like it's delivering, at least in your limited time.
Totally. And there are guns that are unique to the map. They will only be on that map, like a Winchester rifle that's like a bolt action. I mean, literally when I was playing with my friends, the setting, it's weird that I didn't think that it would be as powerful as it is, but just the setting itself actually made us play differently, because I was like, dude, we're like cowboys out here. We're going to be totally reckless. And we were all four driving cars and just bum rushing people, doing stuff that we normally wouldn't do.
That's fucking
just
cool.
Because we're using like sawed-offs and cowboy guns. And it's actually, I think that game didn't necessarily need to have new life breathed into it. But for someone like me who's put in like 486 hours.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I was like, I'm back. Like, I'm
That's
ready.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So cool. Now it's time for the official list of upcoming software across each and every platform, as listed by the Kind of Funny Games Daily Show host each and every weekday. Out today, we got Hello Neighbor on the Xbox One, PC, and Mac.
I'm so excited that that's finally here. I've been checking out like the alpha builds of that game for like over a year. Just because when I originally saw the trailer, I was like, this is the weirdest, creepiest, scary game I've seen in a long time. And so now that that's here, like if you don't know what it is, the basic premise is you're living next to someone who you think is probably like a serial killer. And so you're just his neighbor. And so you're finding ways to sneak into the house and find out what he's up to. So you'll like, it has a really complex AI of the kind of scary guy. And so you'll like throw a tomato on his window, and then he'll come out to clean the window. And while he's doing that, you'll like sneak in through the back door. And then you're like exploring his house, or like setting up light bulbs inside his house to be faulty. So he'll go and change them so you can like further sneak into his house and figure out what is this dude actually up to. And the whole time, if he sees you, he'll chase you down and then like basically gas you to take you out. It's like basically like, like if, a little bit like The Burbs, you're investigating a weird potential serial killer, you don't know what's up. You're being basically the nosy neighbor, but it's like super creepy.
Wow, that sounds fucking cool.
Yeah.
Then there's Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus on PS4 and PC. Battlestar Galactica Deadlock on Xbox One and PS4.
Excellent turn-based strategy game. So
I love that you know all these games. A lot of times it's just like, what the fuck is this?
Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, really cool on PC. It's turn-based strategy. You pick how your ships are going to go, and they pick how their ships are going to go. When you hit play, it all executes in real time. So you see, did I predict my maneuver to like bring my guns to bear on the Cylon ship, or did we actually wreck into each other and fucking kill each other? It's actually really cool, turn-based.
Tennis in the Face.
Don't know anything about that one, but I love the name.
God, the Switch continues to just have way too many games come out.
Yeah.
Paladin comes out on Xbox One, and Zelda Breath of the Wild DLC Champion's Ballad is now out.
The only thing that really matters.
Yep, really. Get on that shit. Now it's time for Read a Mail, brought to you by Lisa and Omaha Steaks. Let me tell you about Lisa mattresses, Anthony. Have you ever slept on a mattress?
I have slept on many mattresses.
You should sleep on a Lisa mattress.
I should, and I actually think that the reason I would like it more is because I know it comes in the box. And I've had one mattress that got delivered out of a box, and unboxing it was one of the little joys in my life, watching it slowly like turn into a real mattress.
It's so great. The mattress is 100% American made and delivered compressed in a box to your door. It's thoughtfully crafted with high quality materials to create what Lisa calls their universal adaptive feel. Its 3 foam layers provide support, pressure relief, and cooling that adapts to all body shapes, sizes, and sleeping styles. Joey has one. She loves it so much. She's always talking about having good night sleeps. You get a 100-night trial, and if you don't like it, they'll come back and get it. They'll take it from you. They do all the work, and then they donate it to charity, and it's a great time, and everybody gets to sleep well. Mattress costs thousands of dollars in the store, but Lisa starts at $525, but you can get $100 off by going to lisa.com/kindafunny and entering promo code kindafunny. That's LEESA.com/kindafunny.
When I was a child, I thought that it wasn't important to have a good mattress. And now as an adult, I've come around. I've come around, yes.
Lisa.com, my friend. And now let me tell you about Omaha Steaks and how now for only $49.99 you can get the family gift pack when you go to omahasteaks.com and enter code KFGames in the search bar. That's a 75% off deal. So Greg Miller's dad, right?
Yes.
Very hard guy to shop for. So for Christmas, Greg Miller was like, I'm going to get him some Omaha Steaks.
Yeah, big box of meat.
And he loved it. He loved this big box of meat. He loved it so much that he didn't know what to get little Greg Miller for his birthday a couple months later. So he got him a big box of meat. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Fantastic for everybody. Right now, Omaha Steaks is giving an exclusive savings just to you guys. Listen to everything that you'll get for less than $50. 2 filet mignons, 2 top sirloins, 2 boneless pork chops, 4 boneless chicken breasts, 4 kielbasa sausages, 4 burgers, 4 potatoes au gratin, 4 caramel apple tartlets, 1 Omaha Steak seasoning packet. Plus, if you get it now, you'll get 4 additional kielbasa sausages. Totally free. Go to omahasteaks.com, enter code KFGames in the search bar, and get a 75% savings. It's the gift guaranteed to be a hit. Put it on the box. All right, guys. Here's some questions. This comes from Andrew.
Hello.
What are your thoughts on the presentation of the Game Awards? I personally think that the awards part is great. The more unfiltered speeches from indie devs and people like Carol Shaw, the better. But I think the balance was way off. There aren't that many awards, and yet they still glossed over several of them during the 3-hour show. It's supposed to be a celebration and acknowledgement of the great work that the gaming community put out in 2017, but there's just such a concerted effort to overshadow that purpose by hyping up games that we won't see for another 3 years and showing 8-minute trailers. Should the gaming industry put aside its hype addiction for one evening and just focus on the accomplishments of the year? The answer is yes. And the answer to that is the DICE Awards.
Yeah, I was going to say the DICE Awards, the GDC Awards do the same things.
Yeah. The Game Awards are different. It's a spectacle. It is trying to put on this event, and it is, like we were talking about earlier, it is a hype machine. It is a night where having all these companies on one stage is celebrating video games. And I know it can kind of come off as icky when it's the awards show and not even all the awards are named, or when it seems like people's speeches get cut off. But the numbers speak for themselves. People don't watch these things. So if you want more of this stuff to happen, watch the DICE Awards when they're being streamed next year.
Yeah, and
hosted by Greg Miller.
A lot of people don't. You know, it's like, yeah, and that's where I feel like those shows that is the developers for developers. This is also a show for the audience as well, and just for consumers. And that has to have a different vibe. And I feel like it has to have the trailers if you want them to care.
It has to have the trailers if you want them to care. It has to have all the shilly promotional stuff in order to fund the whole thing and happen. And again, I do think that this year is a much better example of what Jeff's vision is. He's listening. He's trying to make these things better. He's listening to feedback like this, and he understands. And I think that even this year, they did a much better job of letting people speak. There was one point where I think it was the Cuphead developers were given a speech. They stopped for a second, and then the music started playing to like get him off stage. And he grabbed the mic again, was like, oh, sorry. And they cut the music, let him keep talking. And I was like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like, that is them paying attention and understanding like the importance of this. And it's hard because you can't have it both ways. People, I think one of the biggest criticisms of this year is that it is still too long and that there is a little too much fat.
Sure.
But the fat pays the bills. And it's like, there's all these like weird, well, this, then that, and kind of having it be even longer going through all the awards. I don't think we'll ever see that. And is that sad? Yeah, in certain ways, but the Game Awards are not and will never be what you're talking about. But those things do exist.
They do. Yeah.
So support
them out.
Yeah.
Great name.
Yeah, Pepsi Hero here. Says, Dear Tim and Anthony, a few days ago, Jeff Keighley was told on Twitter that he had no big AAA reveals of the Game Awards. Jeff's reply was keen and confident. After watching the show, it's clear Jeff kicked ass. How do you think the Game Awards will progress moving forward? It seems to be a bigger deal than E3 to me, which says a lot. As always, may your LaCroix be cold and may the Force be with you. P.S. Anthony, how stoked are you for Borderlands 3?
I love Borderlands 1 and 2. I'm super stoked for there to be a proper Gearbox-developed Borderlands game. The Gearbox, the non-Gearbox developed Borderlands that came out of the Australian 2K studio, not a bad one, but by then I was kind of burnt out. So now we've had a few years off, and I'll be curious to see, like, what does the next iteration of Borderlands look like? Because I guarantee it won't just be more of the same. I have confidence that they'll deliver something better, so definitely stoked. I've always loved those games.
And to answer your question about the Game Awards, I think that we kind of talked about this a lot earlier in the show, but I do think that the Game Awards are going to just continue to be a bigger deal in terms of the audience watching, in terms of the games press, games developers, games publishers participating, in terms of reveals, in terms of how much love and respect is going to be given to the presenters and to the winners and to everything. I do think it's just going to get better and better and better and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how it expands.
We got Jeremiah Jux here saying, Good morning, Tim and Anthony. I know that my question will get buried under all the Game Awards news and announcements, but I implore you guys to please give Floor Kids a try. I've been a b-boy for over 10 years, and I have to say that this game gets it right. Damn. It understands both gaming and hip-hop culture, and the gameplay is easy to pick up. They even priced it at $19.90, which is a reference to the breakdance move, basically a spinning handstand, but only with one hand. It breaks my heart whenever a game heavily influenced by hip-hop culture goes awry. Feel free to rope in Cool Greg for his question, but do you guys think hip-hop culture still has a place in gaming? Thanks for all you do, and my bad for the long question. So yeah, I'm definitely planning to check out Floor Kids this weekend. Very excited about it. It's a Switch indie game.
I wasn't going to check it out, but now that he's said that it's like it does it all right, like you know, I mean, like there's been a bunch of games like what was it, like Get Up and stuff like that. Like there was various games that came out that were like trying to nail that feel. Like Mark Echo was very much a movie.
Now here's the thing. Get Up, my brother will attest to. He thinks it nails it, and he is in that culture so much.
So yeah, I mean that's good. Like, you know, if someone should nail it, Mark Echo should, right? Like, you know, because he's both a gamer and ingrained in that culture. But to me, when I saw this, I was like, that was like a big wait and see. I was like, I don't know, that seems like a really weird thing. So to hear that it actually nails that b-boy culture, like that actually does make me more interested in it. That someone that does love it says, yeah, like it actually gets it right.
Yeah, I was talking about Tano, and he was like, "Oh, it's fantastic." So I'm definitely going to give it a shot. But yeah, hip hop culture, does it still have a place in gaming? Definitely, and I think yeah, it has a place everywhere. And I owe a lot of my music taste to video games, and even if it's not so much a hip hop video game, things like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater opened my eyes to underground hip hop, independent hip hop, all these things that are like ingrained in who I am now. So yeah, video games are very important for that.
Yeah.
Let's see. A funny one here from Cheddar. How are you guys feeling about the concept of a Wii U game winning Game of the Year at the Game Awards?
That's true.
It's funny when you put it that way.
It is funny you put it that way. But that being said, even if it had only come out on Wii U, I would have still been okay with that winning Game of the Year because that game made me love Zelda
100%. Yeah, that's totally. This is irrelevant information. It's just kind of a funny thing.
Yes, of course.
Nintendo having the last laugh for the first time in a very long time. Let's see. Last question of the day comes from my dog, Nick96. Hey, Tim and Anthony. The Game Awards was amazing. I'm blown away by some of the reveals still. I love Kojima. He seems like he's having the time of his life making Death Stranding. I don't know when this game is coming out, but I haven't been this excited for a Kojima game since Metal Gear Solid 4. Side note, I somehow missed every odd-numbered Metal Gear Solid game. I've only played 2 and 4. All right, I'm going to stop you right there. What the fuck are you doing, dude? Metal Gear Solid 1...
That's true. Amazing.
Undeniable classic.
Yes.
On Metal Gear Solid 3, best story in the franchise by far. And Metal Gear Solid 5, gameplay-wise, is fucking amazing, lacking in everything else.
Yeah, it is weird that after he played 4 and he loves what Kojima does, he wouldn't have played 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, wow, that's hilarious. Kojima's games have always been artistic and lengthy when it comes to plot and cutscenes. I know this is not the case, but what if Death Stranding was a film or had a film alongside it, like Final Fantasy 15 or Ratchet and Clank? Like I said, not happening, but Kojima did get into the games because of his desire to do film. And with his own studio and free reign, I see it possible. He's also stated he wants to develop other forms of media with his new studio. Even if not with Death Stranding, do you see a Kojima Productions film happening?
I mean, I feel like, why not?
Yeah.
Like, if he could do it for a relatively small budget and have it even backed by the fact that, you know, like he could probably get, I guarantee you, he could probably get some production company on, like, hey, we want to make this weird animated film and we want to have Guillermo del Toro attached to it. Also Norman Reedus.
Yeah.
And we already have the guys that are going to make it. I could see someone bankrolling that.
I think that if a Kojima production film happened, well, there's levels to this. On one hand, if a film were to happen, I think it would be a huge budget, and I think that he would partner with a director that loves his work and just fucking make it happen. And it would have nothing to do with Death Stranding or Metal Gear or anything we know. It would be its own thing, and it would just be a fucking crazy ass 2.5 hour spectacle of insanity. In terms of Death Stranding having like a supplemental movie around it on a smaller scale, I can see it happening, but I also kind of think that with the way we've seen Kojima make his games and make the stories in his games, there already is those movies in the games.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
His cutscenes are just so long and drawn out and convoluted and all this stuff that at the end of it creates the special thing that is a Kojima game.
Yeah.
That I don't know that he necessarily needs to make a separate movie from Death Stranding. And Death Stranding will definitely not end up being a movie because it is with PlayStation 4. So
yes,
it's like
totally.
they need the game.
I could see them though doing some sort of short Kojima production films, and you know, I think when people say film, they're like, oh, like in a movie theater? Like, no. I could definitely see them though being like, hey, it's on our website, it's pay what you want for this movie or something like some comedians and other artists have done for their albums and stuff. It's here. We just want you to pay what you want for it, and then they'll just see how much money it would make. I could see them going a weird route like that.
Yeah, that's a good call. Now it's time to squad up. This is where you guys can go to kindoffunny.com/KFGD, just like Dion did. He needs some help. He says, hey guys, I need help with Call of Duty World War II on PlayStation 4. There's only one trophy stopping me from getting my 46th platinum, and that is called Dark Reunion. It requires you to complete the hard Nazi zombies Easter egg, which is very difficult to do in a public match. So I need 3 other best friends who know what to do and can work together to get this done. I live in Australia, so if anybody in my time zone would like to play, that would be awesome. But I welcome anybody who's keen to take this challenge up with me. Hit me up. Thanks, Dion. Someone help Dion out. He's on PlayStation 4. His username is DIZZA_2570. DIZZA_2570. And now for the bad PSN name of the day. This one is horrible. Here's a terrible PSN name from the old Call of Duty 3 days that has stuck with me for years. And that name is MILFmasher69.
Wow.
Woo!
Somehow got past.
Somehow Masher makes it even nastier.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
I'll never know how they got that name on a PSN. Keep fucking that chicken. Glide. Glide's a dope ass name. So now it's time for You're Wrong. I'm going to go to kindoffunny.com/you're wrong to check out what we got wrong today.
Real quick, is it okay if I just say something?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I wanted to, last time I was on the show, we talked about the GoFundMe that I had for my dog that has cancer.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to the Kind of Funny best friends who rolled deep on it.
Hell
and have
yeah.
brought us within so close of our goal. So
and how's everything going now?
she's gotten her first chemo treatment.
Okay.
It was pretty rough.
Can people still support you?
Yeah,
Give the shout
It's
out.
GoFundMe.com/HealShasta. She had her first round of chemo. It's always rough seeing your dog afterwards because they're basically limp dead bodies, but she'll be fine. But I just wanted to say, because people did actually help, that the Kind of Funny best friends, and they noted that they were Kind of Funny best friends. It was very touching to see that. Me and my fiance Amy both thank you.
Hell yeah. You guys are fucking awesome. Let's see. Real Radic 13 says, breaking news, new image of a survey asking about the future settings of Assassin's Creed. So there's a survey going out, and there's a whole bunch of different options here. The war between Athens and Sparta in classical Greece.
Ooh.
The warlord battles in feudal Japan.
Whoa.
Hannibal's invasion of Rome. Genghis Khan and the Mongol invasions. William the Conqueror and the invasion of England. There's a whole bunch of them. Check them out.
That's
if you
crazy.
wanna
Those
see
are
it.
all settings that the history nerd in me is yes, 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 yes.
CJ Rock 32 says, for clarification, Hellblade has stated that they aim to be and bring back AA games with a production and price of $30 at launch. There you go.
Well, it doesn't sound like we got too much wrong.
And
It's because this is the dream team.
all right, this is interesting because we got some actual Bourne fans here that can get some shit for us. Flamboyant Waffle. The Game Awards teaser was probably not for a Bloodborne sequel. Shadows Die Twice is a cool phrase, but it doesn't have a connection to Bloodborne other than one often forgotten mid-game boss. There are two more likely sequel/reboot options. One, Shadow Tower. Developed by From Software in 1998 with a sequel in 2003, the game is an action-oriented dungeon crawler with a more obvious connection to Shadows than Bloodborne. Or two, Tenchu. From Software has acquired the rights to the series in 2004, and Shadows are a big part of it. The main antagonist of the series is sometimes called the Shadow. The final boss of Tenchu 3 says something along the lines of shadows can die twice. Taking place in Japan, the feudal Japan-style drums and scroll in the background show a clearer connection to the new trailer than Bloodborne, which aside from having Lovecraftian and Victorian influences at its core, only mentions an eastern region a few times. Additionally, Hidetaka Miyazaki, director of every Soulsborne game besides Dark Souls 2, said in interviews in 2016 that he had no interest in working on another Bloodborne or Dark Souls game and that From Software had no plans for either series. Of course, the teaser may be for an entirely new IP.
Tenchu games kind of went downhill over time, but when they originally were out on PlayStation, I adored those games. So if someone wanted to make like a super hardcore, brutal ninja game, I'm on board.
I think Kevin's excited too. All right, and then final, PD0000 says, regarding a Sea of Thieves open beta, Rare's Joe Neat replied to Ryan McCaffrey's tweet saying, wrong, smiley face, I'll take you up on that burger next time in town. Also, they said they don't have plans to release it in game preview. They've been running a technical alpha for just over a year with weekly sessions. The pre-order page says the closed beta will be sometime in January.
Damn.
Cool.
I was only hopeful because I was like, oh, February 6th, if I get my hands on even earlier, that's awesome.
There we go. I felt really good about the show, Anthony. I want to thank you for being a part of it.
I felt really good about it.
This is fun. We had a lot of good news. Your wrongs were great and super informative. Thank you for that. Until next time, thank you very much for being a part of this beautiful thing that we call Kind of Funny. We will see you on Monday right here, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames. But until then, make sure you check out all the PSX stuff that Greg is doing. Remember, the Uncharted 10-year anniversary panel will be tomorrow. You can watch that being streamed. Look at Greg's Twitter. I'm sure they'll find the information there. And today at 5 p.m., he will be doing the PlayStation Presents thing. Until next time, I love you. Bye. Now we do the handshake.